How is it that some people don't just endure tough times, but they actually seem to come out stronger on the other side? Is that something you're born with, like some kind of emotional superpower? Or is it something you can actively build and develop?
That question gets right to the heart of, well, how we navigate life's unavoidable challenges, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It points us towards this really fascinating and complex concept, psychological resilience.
And that's exactly what we're diving deep into today. Using the collection of sources you've shared, our mission is really to peel back the layers on what psychological resilience actually is.
Right.
Explore the different ways researchers have, grappled with defining it, identify the key factors the sources highlight as contributing to it, and crucially pull out some practical, actionable strategies you can use to build it yourself.
Exactly. We're working with material that covers the definitions, the research approaches, the factors involved, and some very concrete advice on strengthening this capacity.
Okay, let's unpack this idea then. What is the core concept here? When the sources talk about psychological resilience, what are they really describing?
Well, at its most basic level, it's about the ability to cope effectively, mentally and emotionally when you're faced with a crisis.
Okay.
Or maybe to bounce back to a healthy state pretty quickly after one. You can think of it as an adaptation, like a way your psychological system helps you maintain a healthy state even when things are chaotic.
Right, without long-term negative effects.
Exactly, without those deeply negative long-term effects sticking around.
So it's not about being unaffected by hardship. It's not like just toughing it out and pretending everything's fine.
Oh, absolutely not. The sources are really clear on this. Resilience isn't about avoiding the impact of stress or trauma. It's much more about how you manage that impact.
Manage it, okay.
It's an adaptation, drawing on your psychological traits and your experiences.
Yeah.
Now, right away, the sources acknowledge this is complex stuff, different psychological perspectives.
Yeah.
They interpret resilience in slightly different ways.
Which makes it hard to measure.
Yeah, that can make it tricky for researchers to measure consistently. But the common thread, the thing you find across pretty much all definitions, is this idea of positive adaptation when facing adversity.
Positive adaptation. I like that phrase. It really sticks. And it's not just about the big life-altering crises, is it?
Not at all. That's an important insight from the sources. Even the routine stressors of daily life, think traffic jams, work pressures, minor disagreements.
Yeah, the everyday grind.
Exactly. These aren't just annoyances. They're also challenges that give us opportunities to practice resilience. And what seems really crucial here isn't necessarily the level of stress, but more a person's perception of that stress.
How they see it.
Yes, and their sense of control over it. If you feel completely helpless, well, adapting becomes much, much harder.
That brings up another layer of complexity the sources discuss. Is resilience something you're born with, like a fixed personality trait, or is it something you develop over time?
This is a big point of discussion in the research. While some material might talk about resiliency, as if it's this static thing someone just has.
Like you either got it or you don't.
Right. But the vast majority of the research, the sources point to views psychological resilience as a process.
A process.
It's not some fixed quality. It's something that people develop, pursue, and strengthen over time through their ongoing interaction with their environment and, well, their experiences.
Okay, so it's less about who you are inherently and more about what you do and how you engage with challenges.
Exactly. It's dynamic. And the sources offer a pretty helpful way to think about different responses people have in adverse situations.
Yeah.
They describe 3 general approaches.
What are?
Okay, first, reacting with anger or aggression. Second, becoming completely overwhelmed and just shutting down.
All right, I can picture those.
And third, feeling the emotion, acknowledging the difficulty, but then engaging with the situation in a way that lets them handle it appropriately.
And that third way, that's where resilience is built.
That's precisely where it's fostered. Resilience grows through that third approach, through individuals who can adapt their patterns of thinking and behavior to cope with disruptive states.
Instead of just reacting.
And instead of just reacting instinctively or shutting down, those other 2 approaches, the anger or the shutdown, they can keep you stuck, maybe feeling like a victim, blaming others, and they can actually get in the way of problem solving. Resilient people, in this view, are those who can feel the difficulty and still actively cope, look for solutions, and work towards bouncing back.
That makes a lot of sense. So if it's a process we can develop, what are the key ingredients the sources identify? What feeds into this capacity for positive adaptation?
The sources list quite a few factors, and we can sort of group them. There are definitely personal attributes linked with resilience.
She's personality traits?
Kind of, yeah. These are internal characteristics like having a flexible mindset, a sense of optimism, feeling a degree of control over your life.
Being adaptable.
Adaptability, exactly. And perseverance, what some sources might call grit. Things like good self-esteem, planning skills, and this dynamic ability to adjust your responses based on the situation. Sometimes called ego resilience.
Okay.
These traits influence how you initially react to something negative, maybe giving you a bit of a head start.
So internal qualities play a role, definitely. But what about the world around you? The sources really seem to hammer home something external as being crucial.
Absolutely. Social support is highlighted as a crucial factor. And this isn't just, having people around.
Right, not just quantity.
No, it's defined as having access to and actively using strong connections with others. Ties that involve solidarity, trust, intimate communication, mutual obligation, both inside and outside your family.
Can you give us some examples from the sources just to show how impactful this really is?
Yeah, the examples are powerful. For kids facing tough circumstances, just having a strong relationship with at least one caring adult acts like a protective shield.
Wow. Just one adult.
It makes a huge difference. Or think about high-achieving professionals dealing with intense work pressure and maybe personal challenges. The perceived social support they felt from friends and loved ones. That was a key predictor of their resilience.
Their ability to cope and even thrive.
Exactly. And in the military context, things like group support, unit cohesion, peer connections, they're strongly correlated with resilience. Veterans with strong social support systems were significantly less likely to develop PTSD.
Those are incredibly compelling examples. It's clearly not just a nice to have, it's vital. What about people facing huge upheaval, like refugees?
That's another area the sources mentioned that really shows the breadth of social support's impact. For refugees, something practical like language learning in their new host communities. That fosters social cohesion and support.
Building new connections.
Right, adding another layer of belonging alongside the connections they maintain with their own community. Even things like storytelling within families or amongst friends helps. It can give children a broader perspective on life struggles, seeing how others coped across generations.
Especially when navigating a new culture, I imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It enhances their resilience. It really boils down to feeling connected and understood.
That connection piece, built through language, stories, or just showing up for each other, it sounds foundational. What else contributes?
Positive emotions play a surprisingly strong role. Now, this isn't about ignoring negative feelings.
All right, not toxic positivity.
No, it's the capacity to maintain positive emotions during adversity. The sources indicate this leads to more flexible thinking, better problem solving, and actually quicker recovery from stress.
Interesting.
It helps people cope more adaptively and can even strengthen their social resources.
So finding moments of lightness or gratitude, even when things are really hard.
Exactly that. But the sources note that consciously monitoring your mood is linked to cultivating these positive states. Strategies like finding the benefit in a challenge. What did you learn?
Benefit finding.
Okay. Cognitive reappraisal, like reframing a difficult thought. Using humor, maintaining optimism, or engaging in goal-directed problem solving. These are all linked to resilience.
Humor, yeah. The sources mentioned that specifically for older adults.
They did, yeah. Humor was highlighted as helping older adults cope specifically with age-related challenges.
I can definitely see how a bit of humor helps navigate, well, the indignities of getting older. What about more active strategies, things related to how we think and behave?
Right, that falls under cognitive and behavioral strategies. Approaches like cognitive behavioral techniques, CBT and mindfulness are mentioned.
Okay, CBT, how does that fit in?
From a CBT perspective, building resilience often involves deliberately changing thought patterns and behaviors.
Like tackling negative self-talk, that internal critic.
Precisely. That's often a first step. Okay. Identifying that negative self-talk thoughts like, I can't handle this or this is impossible, and consciously working to shift them to more neutral or positive self-talk.
Just doing that helps.
The sources suggest that alone can significantly reduce psychological stress. Another technique is preparing for challenges mentally.
Ah, like visualization.
Exactly. The example given is preparing for public speaking by visualizing the whole event beforehand. The room, the audience, you speaking confidently. By mentally rehearsing it, the actual event can feel less daunting.
Like you've already done it once. Old hat, as they say.
Kind of, yeah. It reduces anxiety.
That mental rehearsal sounds incredibly practical.
It is. And related to this is emotional regulation, actively planning how you'll manage your feelings, maybe reappraising events to find a more helpful perspective.
And stopping yourself from ruminating, going over and over things.
Yes, reducing rumination, that tendency to get stuck rehashing negative thoughts. These are noted as contributing to resilience, even for people managing conditions like depression or anxiety.
What else? Any other practical skills?
Other things mentioned include the capacity to make realistic plans, having good communication skills, and being able to manage strong feelings and impulses without, being completely overwhelmed by them.
Okay, so it's a blend of internal stuff, leveraging external connections, managing emotions, actively shaping thoughts and behaviors. Is there anything else that plays a part?
Yes, one more the sources point to. Experience with stress and hardship itself.
Really? That sounds counterintuitive.
It does a bit, but think about it. Navigating different levels of stress over time allows people to practice and refine their coping skills. It's like building up their resilience muscle. Experiencing hardship and successfully getting through it was specifically identified as a factor contributing to resilience in older adults. It seems having weathered storms, big or small, can strengthen your capacity for future ones.
Like exposure therapy for life's difficulties, maybe. And we see these factors playing out in real-world situations, right? The sources give examples.
They did. Think about communities after natural disasters. The ability of survivors to start rebuilding their lives. That shows immense adaptability, emotional strength, the capacity to regain stability.
And it's often a collective thing.
Crucially, it's often the collective effort and pooling of resources within that community that makes it more resilient overall, not just individual actions. And for individuals in those situations, processing emotions rather than just avoiding them tends to lead to better long-term outcomes.
What about really personal challenges like divorce?
The sources note that for children navigating parental divorce, their resilience depends on a mix of internal factors and external support systems from schools, friends, extended family.
But other things can add stress.
Oh, definitely. Ongoing parental conflict, financial issues, or parents repartnering can add significant stress. But having strong support networks and maybe specific coping programs can really enhance their resilience. And similarly, family resilience after, say, the death of a member involves that difficult process of reorganizing relationships and functions to find a new balance, a new equilibrium.
So resilience isn't just for surviving major trauma, it's needed in everyday life too, and even in things like pursuing new ideas.
Absolutely. One source talked about innovative resilience potential. It highlighted how factors like self-efficacy, optimism, and hope are critical for people facing the frequent setbacks and failures that are just part of the innovation process.
Yeah, you'd need to bounce back from disappointment a lot.
Exactly. Without that capacity, innovation would likely just grind to a halt.
Okay, this has been a really deep dive into a rich topic. We've covered what psychological resilience is, not just bouncing back, but that positive adaptation. We've explored how it's primarily seen as this dynamic process, not some fixed trait you have or don't. We've identified the key ingredients. Personal attributes, the absolutely critical role of social support, the power of positive emotions, those actionable cognitive and behavioral strategies, and even gaining strength from past experience with hardship. And we've seen examples of it playing out in different contexts. Given all of this, what are some practical, actionable things you, or our listener, can take away to actively build your own resilience or manage stress better? Things drawn directly from these sources.
Yeah, the sources, especially the material on stress management, offer some very concrete, practical techniques you can try.
Let's hear them. What can people actually do?
Okay, they cover a range of simple actions. On the physical side, things like just stretching periodically if you sit for long periods, prioritizing sleep, maybe even setting an alarm to remind you to actually go to bed on time.
Simple but easy to forget.
Totally. Yeah. And taking a hot or cool bath or shower to help relieve physical tension. Those are all mentioned.
Okay, simple physical things. What about for our mindset and emotional state?
Deep, slow breathing is key. The sources highlight that when we're stressed, our breathing gets shallow. So consciously checking your breathing and practicing slow, deep breaths counteracts this.
Is there a specific technique?
One mentioned is inhaling deeply for a count of 8, then exhaling really slowly through puckered lips for a count of 16. Repeat that 10 times.
8 in, 16 out. Got it.
Journaling your thoughts and feelings, just getting them out of your head and onto paper, can provide clarity and perspective. And a big one, try to live one day at a time.
Focusing on the present. That can lift a huge weight of future worry, can't it?
It truly can. And related to that is structuring your day realistically. Try not to cram in back-to-back commitments. Give yourself some breathing room.
Avoid burnout.
Exactly. The sources also suggest making time for something you genuinely enjoy every single day. And shifting focus outwards is another tip. Try to add, as they put it, an ounce of love to what you do.
An ounce of love.
Or focusing on understanding others, rather than just seeking to be understood yourself. Doing something, anything, for somebody else is also recommended.
So connecting, giving, finding joy.
Yes. Also, something as simple as taking a moment to improve your appearance is listed. Feeling better about how you look can genuinely help you feel better internally.
Interesting.
And that cognitive preparation technique we talked about earlier, like visualizing a feared event beforehand to make it feel less intimidating when it happens, that's a powerful tool for managing anxiety.
The inoculation idea, and trying to maintain an optimistic view.
Exactly. Believing in the best in others and in situations where possible. These are all practical ways, directly supported by the principles we've discussed from the sources, to actively strengthen your capacity to handle stress, navigate challenges, and, well, bounce back.
It really sounds like resilience isn't some rare gift, but more like a skill set and a way of being that involves internal effort, external connection, and consistent practice.
It's definitely a dynamic combination. And, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's important we also reiterate the nuance and complexity the sources bring up.
Okay.
We've touched on the process versus trait discussion, which is ongoing. But the sources also include a critical perspective that's really vital to consider.
What's that perspective?
It's the argument that focusing too heavily on individual resilience might inadvertently shift responsibility away from governments, institutions, or communities.
Ah, I see. Like blaming the victim.
Sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Some sources suggest that emphasizing your ability to bounce back from things like natural disasters or systemic issues like childhood trauma could distract from the need for society as a whole to prevent or mitigate those problems in the first place.
Right. Fix the cause, not just the symptom.
Exactly. One source even posits that the ultimate goal should be reducing trauma and adversity itself, not just making people more resilient to it. They even mentioned research suggesting that perhaps counterintuitively, high resilience in childhood could potentially be associated with worse adult outcomes for some individuals. It just highlights how nonlinear and complex this topic really is.
That's a really challenging, thought-provoking point to end on.
It is. And it serves as a reminder that resilience isn't just a simple personal fix for everything. It exists within this broader context of environment, support systems, and societal structures.
Okay. So bringing this all together, we've explored how psychological resilience is this rich, multifaceted capacity for positive adaptation. It involves cultivating personal qualities, yes, but absolutely leaning on strong social support.
Crucial.
Actively managing your emotions and thoughts, utilizing practical coping skills, and even gaining strength from past experiences. And there are many practical steps you can take from your breathing to your daily schedule to how you connect with others to strengthen this capacity.
It's a complex but ultimately achievable process involving many interconnected layers.
So, for you, our listener, maybe consider this. Given all the complexity and the different perspectives we've explored today, what does building your resilience mean in your own life right now? Is it primarily about changing your mindset, your habits, the skills you practice? Or is it also about actively seeking out, strengthening, or maybe building the supportive environments and connections around you? Perhaps it's recognizing it's likely a vital interplay of both. And finding that balance is a powerful step in itself.
That's a really worthwhile question to ponder.
Absolutely. And that wraps up this deep dive.